We're on Daf Lamed Amid Beis, toward the bottom, about 6 lines from the bottom. Amr of Yehuda. Eidus hamachesh zu azu bebdikas ksheru. We're talking about dine mamlis. By dine nefashos, the din of drisha v'chakira, that you interrogate the edim and make sure that their stories match. But in dine mamlis, there's no such din. But what happens if, on some fact of the case, the two edim contradict each other? One said, and the Gemara is going to give the examples. So we say ksher b'dinei mamlis. It's in dinei mamlis, it's going to be kosher. Amarav mistavra mil seder Rav Yehuda be'echad ayme ba'arniki shechayra ve'echad ayme ba'arniki levena. Probably this that we say that it's going to be kosher, even though the two edim, the two witnesses, contradicted each other, is talking about where one said it was in a black bag and the other one said the money was in a white bag. Reuven lent money to Shimon, but one aid says a black bag and the other one says a white bag. Because that's not a important question. He doesn't remember if it was a Moshe's bag or a pomegranate bag. He wasn't really looking at the color of the bag. They're arguing about it was a coin, and one said it was a black coin, and the other one says it was a white coin. They both say it was $100 coin, but they don't remember the color of the coin, because that's more central to the question. I mean, you'd think they would have noticed the color of the coin that was being handed over, that they're saying the Eidus about. The bag that it was in is not so important, but the money itself is more central. Sagt the Gemara, the Gemara asks, what you've concluded is that in Dinei Mamanis, if you have one person says a black bag and the other one says a white bag, that it's still going to be kosher Eidus. That's mashma, but it's only by Dinei Mamanis. By Dinei Nefashos, it's not the case. If one says it was a long sword, the other one says it was a short sword that he killed him. That's not going to be good Eidus, because that's an important. What was the murder weapon is clearly a very important part of the Eidus. But if one says he was wearing white clothes, the murderer was wearing white clothes, and the other one says he was wearing black clothes. They both agree it was the same guy who did it, but they just don't remember what he was wearing at the time. That's not a problem, because that's not a central part of the Eidus. So you see, even on Dinei Nefashos, something that is so irrelevant. Now, obviously, there are things that are part of the Eidus, right? Like when it happened. There are a number of things that are required to say Eidus on. When it happened, who did it, what happened, all those things. But then on these type of things, the Gemara is saying that even on a murder, even on a Dinei Nefashos, even something where someone's going to get killed, if you don't remember, if they remember differently what he was wearing at the time, what the murderer was wearing at the time, as long as they know it was him, it doesn't really make a difference. So Gemara Gavra, so this is Shver. We said before that it was just by Dinei Mamanis that we don't care about the color of the bag that the money was in. And over here we're saying, like by Dinei Nefashos, we also don't care. The Gemara Gavra Karamis. What are you asking from one Tana, one Amir on the other? It's Taka Machlokes about it. That Rav Chizda says even by Dinei Nefashos, we're not going to be makbid on that. And Yehuda would disagree. He'd say no, Dinei Nefashos, if they don't get the details right, we always try to be mizaka someone from getting killed, so we would let him off. Now, he goes further. Rabbi Yehuda had said that if they saw the bag that the money was in was different colors, that by Dinei Mamanis that's going to be good. He says even if the money itself the witnesses disagreed about the color of the money. Kaman, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. And the Gemara wants to say, this is like Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha. If you remember from yesterday, Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha was the man who said if you have one aid that says that he borrowed the money, Reuven lent money to Shimon on Sunday, and the other aid says that Reuven lent money to Shimon on Tuesday. So According to Rishub and Karcha, you could put the two edus together, even though they seem to be talking about two separate loans, but they both agree that Reuven owes Shimon $100, so we can be mitzvah of them to say that he owes. You have two witnesses that say he owes $100. So Rishub and Karcha is willing to be mitzvah witnesses that are saying different things. So maybe this is Nahardoi are basing that on the Rishub and Karcha. So no. Maybe Rishub and Karcha allows you to say that where one aide said there was a loan on Sunday and one says on Tuesday, it could be there were two separate loans, so they're not, each witness doesn't mean that the other witness is incorrect. We're just saying that they're both testifying about a loan, and in the end, this person, there are two witnesses saying that Reuven owes Shimon $100, even though they might be talking about different loans, or different times that they borrowed the money, but they both agree that he owes $100. Over here, where one says that it was black money, and one says that it was white money, so the two Adam, and they say it was at the same time, the same people, so they're disagreeing, they're contradicting each other. Maybe Yeshua and Karcha would not be masking. Elo Huda Amar Ki Tanadoi. Let's say that such edus is believed when they're contradicting about the color. He says like this: Tanatanya Amr Shimon Lozel. Lo nechal ku Beisham Beisil al shtei kitei edim. Beisham Beisil have no machlokes. We have two sets of witnesses. She'achas Omeres Masayim, Achas Omeres Mana. One set of edim say Ruvain borrowed $200 from Shimon, and one says he borrowed 100 zuz from Shimon. So yesh b'chlal Masayim Mana. We don't know which edim are right; they're contradicting each other. But regardless of which one is right, the Reuven certainly owes at least 100 zuz, right? If the one who said 200 is correct, then he owes 200 zuz, but within 200 is 100. And if the one who says 100 zuz is correct, then he owes 100. He only owes 100. So in that case, you could say everyone would agree, even Beis Shammai would agree that the Reuven is going to owe 100 zuz. Aman nechelku al kat achas, where it's only one set of edim, meaning there are two edim. But the first case we're talking about, there's a total of four edim. Two said 200 and two said 100. Now we're talking about where there's a total of two edim, and one says 200 and one says 100. Beis Shammai says they're arguing, they're disagreeing, they're contradicting each other. So you don't have two edim that say anything. Beis Hillel says we can say that even though they're disagreeing, the aide who said, excuse me, the aide who said 200 agrees that he owes at least 100. So they have two eidim that are both saying 100. So that's Beis Hillel. So according to Rishon ben Elazar, Beis Hillel holds that even when they contradict and they disagree on the details, we're still going to accept the aid. So the same thing would be in the case where they disagreed about the color of the money. Again, a similar case. You have two eidim that Ruvain owes something to Shimon, but the question is, what Ruvain says that he owes a chavis of yayin, which is cheaper. And there are two eidim, and the first aid says that Ruvain owes Shimon a barrel of wine, which is cheaper, and the second aid says that Ruvain owes Shimon a barrel of oil, which is more expensive. He said, listen, you got to at least pay for the barrel of oil, because that's included in the barrel of the value of the barrel of wine. I'm sorry, is included in the value of a barrel of oil. Oil is more expensive than chamra, so you got to at least pay the chamra. So Gemara command Reb Shimon Elazar. This l'chayr is like Reb Shimon Elazar, who said that Reb Beis Hillel says you say b'chlal Masayim Mana. So Gemara Emad Amar Reb Shimon ben Elazar Hechad Yesh b'chlal Masayim Mana ki Hai Gavna Miyama. When it says how could you compare the two? Over here, it's the value is less, but they're disagreeing about what happened. One says it's a barrel of oil. One says it's a barrel of wine. That's two separate things. So you don't have an edus that he borrowed a barrel of, at least a barrel of oil, of wine. That's they're. But when you say 100 is included in 200, because it's all cash. So when you say you borrow 200, part of 200 is 100. But you can't say a barrel of wine is part of a barrel of oil. We're talking about not where he said that where one said he owes a barrel of oil, and one says he owes a barrel of wine, but rather he said he owes the value of a barrel of oil and a barrel of wine. So then it mamishes exactly the same thing as a case of Bechlal Masayimana, as if he said $100 and $200. We're never talking about actual oil and actual wine. We're just talking about, commodity. He said you bought shares of you bought on the market the value of a certain amount of oil. He was making bets. I forgot what it was derivatives. It wasn't actual commodities. You have two Eidim, and one says that the incident happened, the loan was made on the top floor, and one says it was on the bottom floor. Rabbi said that's not an important distinction, and it could be they forgot where they were, and it's going to be a good edus. So the Mishnah said, we said that when the Dayanim give their psak, after they leave the Bezdin, they can't go back to one judge can't go back to the litigant and say, the other two Dayanim judge, they paskined against you, but I was on your side. And so now the Gemara basically brings a brisa that quotes the justification, this discussion, exactly as was said in the Mishnah. From where do we know that when the judges go out of the courtroom, the judge can't say to the litigant, I thought you were innocent, but my other judges thought you were chayiv. But I was outvoted. The Torah says you're not allowed to say rechilus, and this is rechilus. She causing them to dislike the other judges. Hu Talmida, the Nafik Aleh Kala, the Gali Milsa, the Idme Be Midrasha. There was a rumor that came out, which turned out to be confirmed, that one of the Talmidim in the Beis Medrash revealed something that the Rebbe had said, that he said, it's not meant for public consumption. Basar Esem V'Tartan Shnin, after 22 years. After Rav Ami Medrasha, Rav Ami kicked him out of the Beis Medrash. Amadin Gali Razia. This person is somebody who says secrets. So the Gemara is saying that if something is said to you in confidence, you're not permitted to say it over. So he said, even after 22 years, you can't repeat something that was told to you and you were said not to say it over. Just a continuation of what we're saying about Leisei L'Chrachel, about judges revealing their deliberations. My father-in-law is a physicist. He worked for the Defense Department back in I think the 60s. And my son often asks him about what he did for the Defense Department. And he's German, he's a Yeke. And he always tells him it's classified. I can't talk about it. It's literally 60 years ago. He will not give it up. He's German. What can you do? He's not so he wouldn't have a problem with this. It's like the mission. Kolzman shemevi raya soiser asadim. As long as if you have a din Torah and that even after you came to a din Torah, even after it's over, if you could bring new evidence, you could overturn the din based on new evidence to demand a retrial. What if there was a case where the Bezdin directed one of the parties, say you have to give all your evidence within the next 30 days. I guess, and if you don't do so, you're going to be punished. We're going to fine you $100. So if he provides evidence within 30 days, he can redo the trial. But if it's after 30 days, then we assume that he's gotten false edus. He got people to testify falsely for him because he was required to do it within 30 days. What the Rav Shimon Gamliel disagrees. He says, listen, he violated what the Bezdin told him to do, but what could he do? He was looking for 30 days, but no one popped up for another 10 days afterwards. So it took him 40 days. So we do relitigate. Amalai Hava Edim, if they said, if they said to one of the parties, bring your Edim, Va'amar Ainli, he said, I don't have Ainli Edim. He said, I don't have any Edim. Amma have a raya, and he said, bring your raya, so I'm ainly raya, like a star, and he says, I don't have any star. Lachazman heavy raya, umatz edim, but afterwards he finds the star or he finds edim. Hareza einiklo. It's nothing. Because again, since he already said he doesn't have, he wouldn't have said I don't have if he thought he might find. So it seems more likely is that he counterfeited a star, or he convinced people, he paid people to testify for it. Rav Shimon Gamliel says no. It could be he genuinely didn't know, and this is just what it took him time to come up with. Someone sees he's losing the din Torah. It was a case where they had already asked him if he has Edom, and he said, no, I don't have. And then 5 minutes later, he sees, this din Torah is about to end, and I already said I don't have Edom. I'm going to lose. So he says all of a sudden, no, I have Edom. Go ask my, this guy, Moshe and Chaim, they're going to testify me. And he says, look, I have in my pocket, I have a star. Everyone agrees in that case it's nothing, because it's one thing if he comes back a month later and he says he found Edom. That means he didn't know about it at the time. This is where he had no chance. Nothing changed. It was right after he said he doesn't have, and there was no chance for him to do any investigations. And then all of a sudden he pops up, so we don't believe him. Amar Rabba Rav Huna, halach Rav Shimon Gamliel. Say the halach is like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Amar Rav Huna, ein halach k'divrei chacham. Said the halach is not like the chacham. On the first case where he was told by the Bezdin they asked to bring the Edom within 30 days, and he brought it afterwards. So Pshita. Once you said the halach is like Rav Shimon Gamliel, obviously the halach is not like the chacham. Keep the amar halach Rav Shimon Gamliel, mei ledan ein halach k'chacham. So the amar ma'odetei mahani mi lichatchila. Avli yavet shabbat. I might think that lichatchila you shouldn't accept such Edom, but maybe if that you should lichatchila you can accept it. Now, the Evet Shapid, but if they brought such Edom and the Bezdin rejected them, maybe then you don't have to back away from that. Kamashwan the Avid Madrin. Gemara says no. This is something that you can overturn. If the Bezdin paskin falsely that it's too late for him to bring Edom after the 30 days are up. It's not just even if they already paskin like that, we overturn what they say and you accept their Edom, like Rav Shimon Gamliel, like the first psak of Rav Shimon Gamliel. Amalei hava Edom. Then the second machlokes in the Gemara, where he said he was instructed to bring his Edom, and he said I don't have Edom and I don't have Rayas, and then later on he found them. So the Chacham say he's not believed because he already said he doesn't have Edom. Rav Shimon Gamliel says no, he just didn't have then, but now he found. On the second day of the Mishnah, we say Pasnei Chacham. Halach is not like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Shita. It's the same thing. If you say the halach is not like the Chacham, that means halacha is like Chacham. That means it's not like Rav Shimon Gamliel. So tomorrow, Hakamash Mulan, that by he ain't halach Rav Shimon Gamliel. What it's coming to say is, in this particular case, the halacha is not like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Habakulu halacha Rav Shimon Gamliel. But in all other machlokes in the Mishnayos between the Chacham and Rav Shimon Gamliel, we always paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel. He wins all the time. This is the one exception throughout Shas. this is different than what Rabbi Chana had said b'shem Rabbi Yochanan. Kol makom sheshana Rabbi Shimon Gamliel b'mishaseinu Allah kamaisa. He said that Allah is always like Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, chutz me'erev v'tzidam v'raya achroina, except for the case the din of erev, an arev, a guarantor, and tzidon. It's a sechtes gittin, and raya achroina. This second, our Mishnah has two dinim of rayas. So the second din of raya in our Mishnah, we paskin not like Rav Shimon Gamliel. But in any case, this Rabbi Bar Chana says b'shem Rabbi Yochanan that there are three exceptions to the rule that we always paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel. And before we had said this is the only case that's an exception that we don't paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel. Hahu Yenuka the Tavu Ladina Kameder of Nachman. There was this child who had yarshened his father, and someone was coming and saying his father owed money. So he came before Rav Nachman. Amalei Istlcha Sadi. He asked the child, "Do you have any edim?" Amalei, he said, "No." Istlcha Raya. Do you have any evidence? Amalei Loi. Chayver Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says you have to pay the debt. Tosfos asks that generally we paskin that a katan does not have to pay a debt of his father. At least, certainly not until he becomes a gadol. So at this time, Chayver Rav Nachman, less later Rav Nachman had armin and aim as discussing nechsei came Rebbe Seichelisman. You don't go after the nechasim of a yasim unless it's being consumed by ribbis. Amalei, yes. So have a bachi va'azal. So he passed against the child. The child went out and started to cry. Shamu hanach inshi. Some people heard him. Amrulei ananya adina b'mila da'avucha. They said, we know evidence that your father did not owe this money. They wanted to help the child that was crying. They said, Rav Nachman said, oh, in this case, I'll accept it, even though we paskin like the Chacham, that once a person, a party was asked, do you have Edom? And he said no. He can't go back and change it and say, oh, I found Edom, but a child does not know the details of his father's affairs. So when he said he didn't have Edom, it's because he wasn't conversant with the situation. So if Edom volunteer themselves and say that they know, that there's nothing making that this evidence is suspect. There's no flaw in this edus because of his not knowing about it, because he's not expecting to know. There was a woman that had a star in her hand. It said that Reuven owes money to Shimon. But she said, I have this star that says Reuven owes money to Shimon, but it happens to be that I know that Reuven already paid it back. Him there, Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman will leave there, and he said, okay, we're going to rip up the star because Reuven doesn't owe the money anymore, because she's saying that it was paid. Amalei Rav Nachman Kaman. Was this like a Rabbi? This is like Rabbi, who says that the woman really owned the star. She could have collected the money herself. He says that a star is nikna by giving it over to someone. So if the woman is holding a star that says Reuven owes money to Shimon, and Reuven gave it to her, so she becomes the owner of the star, she could herself go to Shimon and get the money. So the fact that she's saying it was already paid, she's like a party, and she's being maida. She's saying it's not owed anymore. She can't go. She could have gone to Reuven and got the money herself, and she's saying it's paid already. So she's maida on the star, and therefore it's potter. Amalei. So, but the chayra, we don't necessarily paskin like Rabbi who says Isis Nikim Masira. So why did Rav Nachman paskin like that? Amalei Shani Hacha. The boy Kalse. Says it doesn't have to be because of Isis Niknas B'Masira and the star belongs to the woman. It could be just because she has the option to just rip it up. She's saying she knows that it was paid up. So she could rip it up and then she would have the same effect. Ikad Amri Loihim ne Rav Nachman. That those who say Rav Nachman did not believe her and said that no, Reuven still has to pay Shimon. She has the option to rip it up, so why don't we believe her when she says it was paid up? Some of them was like, keeping this chazik b'beidina, since it's already brought in a bezdin, since they had written this star and made it into, it already had a it was already, what do you call it? kaima. They were makayim the star in Besdin, so we know that it's a good star. So we assume that there is a debt, and just the fact that the woman is being made, even though she has like a migo that she could have ripped it up or burnt it, that's not enough to take away from an authenticated from a star makuyim. We don't say that you burn it. Esei Rav Nachman, simple. That's a receipt for a debt, right? Reuven had lent money to Shimon, and I'm sorry, Shimon lent money to Reuven, and then Reuven paid it up, and he asked Shimon for the star, and Shimon said, "I don't have the star with me," and then or Shimon, or they just didn't bother doing it, giving him the star, and instead Shimon wrote a receipt to Reuven saying that Reuven paid up the debt. So Simpat Sheyeshel of Edom, Simpat that has on it Edom, Yiskayim b'chaysamav. You should be Mekayim the Chasimus. Einol of Edom, but if there's no Edom on it, V'yatza mitachas yidei shlishi, and a third party is holding on to it. So it's very similar to the previous case, right? Where you have a star, in this case it's a receipt, but it's coming out, it's being held by a third party. Yatza achar chisim shtaris, or if the simpan, the receipt was written on the actual original star, underneath where the star was signed, kosher. It's kosher. Alma shlish mehemen. So you see that a shlish can this third party can say that it's that he's saying that this receipt is good, that it is a good it is a good simpan, even though the star was mekuyim. So you see that the fact that it's mekuyim does not take away from the ability of a shlish to, in this case, say that the star is the simpan is a good star. Alma shlish mehemen tiyufta the Rav Nachman tiyufta. It's a good kasha on Rav Nachman. Kiyasar Dimi Amar Rav Yochanan. La'olam maybe raya v'seiser. A person can always bring a raya and undo what was paskind. Achi yistasem tanoisav. V'yomer kivu plani v'eduni. Unless he says, I'm done. You know, he gives his what do you say? What do they say in a court when someone's finished his rest? He rests his case until he rests his case, and after he rests his case, he says, "I want to bring this and this guy to say Edis." So Hagufa Kasha Amrit Yistasim Tanoisav. The Gemara says that once he finished what he's saying he's resting his case, then he can't say anymore. Etin l'Rabbanan. That's like the Rabbanan who say once you rest your case, that you no longer believed. Then we say that, but he's not believed if he says bring these person in to be made right away, where he didn't wait till later, but he said immediately. So he had said I don't have Edom, and now he's saying I do have Edom. So in the Mishnah we had said that's the last din that we had said that even Rav Shimon Gamliel agrees under those circumstances that he's not believed. So at the Rav Shimon Gamliel, that's going like Rav Shimon Gamliel was saying, only when he brings Edom immediately after saying he doesn't have, he's not believed. But if he would wait till later, he would be believed. So that's like Rav Shimon Gamliel. And if you'll say that no, this whole is going according to Rav Shimon Gamliel, who says he can be sicer after he rested his case. And that which we said until he rests his case, meaning unless he says immediately that they should come back, that can't be that we're going like Rav Shimon Gamliel. We said that the only cases it's a machlokes is either there are three examples where we paskin like where we don't paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel, or there's one case, but everyone agrees on this rayach reina that we don't paskin like Rav Shimon Gamliel. So how could he paskin over here like Rav Shimon Gamliel? Elikiyasar of Shmuel, right? This is one of the three cases that we said we don't paskin like him. Elikiyasar of Shmuel by Yehudam Rav Yechon la'olam maybe ray v'soiser as she istatem tanoisav. He could always bring a raya and be chaylik. We're passing like the Rabban, essentially, that he can't be seiser once he already rested his case. He can't contradict it later and bring edim. So until he rests his case, he's allowed to bring edim during the court case. When he says some tanoisim and they ask him, "Do you have any edim?" and he says no. And they ask him, "Is it right?" and he says no. But if it was a case where he didn't come up with the edim, but there were edim that were far away that he didn't know about, or that they found a safe with his father's papers in it, in that case, he could then open up the trial because that's new evidence. It's not an aid that he knew about that he says he forgot, but it's someone who wasn't around, and then the person came back and he says he was here, or he found papers in the safe. Okay, we'll finish this tomorrow. I don't want to make you miss the minyan.
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay. Have a great day.